Hey, it's the Cheap Bonding with Board Games, and this is a review not of C3i magazine issue number 33, but of the game that came inside of it. Yeah, there's a game with counters and maps and rules. This happens to be the rules. It's Waterloo, 1815, the campaign, and it's the second in a series of games that C3i is putting out from Mark Herman. Hello. Mark Herman's Waterloo Campaign, 1815. So this is currently only available in the C3i magazine, number 33, but it is the second game in Mark Herman's C3i series. So here you see the boxed edition or the deluxe edition. I would hazard a guess there will be one for Waterloo, 1815 as well. But currently it's just in the magazine format, and Rebel Fury, if I can pick this up, Rebel Fury is also headed our way at some point in time from GMT. Now, before I go too much further, so there's the actual rules book, which comes inside the magazine. So the counters come as well. You can see the ones. It's a very low counter count. You'll also get other counters for other games and maybe errata. I'm not even sure what all the counters here are for. I punched out the ones just for this game. And again, you can see our counter density is low, which is the word I was looking for instead of count. All right, this will not be a super detailed playthrough, but I will show you the gorgeous map. I'll show you the counters. We'll walk through how a turn works, and we'll get into the very simple system of movement and combat. The complexity in the game is how you play, not in the rules to play. Let me pan around the map. Now, I do have my plexiglass in place, so this is not a mounted map board. It's a paper map. So plexi comes in very handy, but you're going to pick up some glare here that I can't afford or avoid with my lighting. So I wanted to just kind of pan the map, and then I will zoom in on it. There's the counters, by the way, so you can see how low our counter density is, and there I get into more glare from another light. It's a fairly large map. And a gorgeous one. Let me zoom in on a spot. So just to give you a view of the roads, the towns or chateaus, and a river moving through. I'll throw in a couple other photos probably off to the left side here that'll just take some close shots of, or even closer shots of what the chateaus look like. Some of which have bridges, which do matter as far as some combat and movement. And just a little bit better detail for kind of the open spaces, which do not have any combat or movement effects, but they add a lot of beauty to the map. Now, Waterloo obviously is the same system that Mark Herman used with Gettysburg, but it has some tweaks that I'll go into. And the beauty about the game is its simplicity, and obviously what you're seeing with Volume 2 is Mark's ability to tweak it for the genre, the theme that is in play. So you'll see roads offer double movement allowance as long as the infantry is in the advance mode, not in a battle formation, and all cavalry can take advantage of that double movement on a road as well. So you see the towns or the chateaus, they will give a +1 to a defender, except cavalry, which is cool. Obviously, they're moving around on horseback. It also negates the cavalry charge inside these towns. I've interlaid the zone of influence and zone of control example that's in the rulebook. This is the exact same as Gettysburg if you played it. There's some rules that affect these zones of control and zones of influence differently, but that picture of what they are is exactly the same. So here's a photo of the player aid, and I'm zoomed in on the turn record track. This is how simple this is. A day is broken into two different turns, an AM and a PM, and then you can see right on there is verbiage that keeps you out of the rule books. Instructions for the first scenario, which starts actually on June 16th, 1815, lays out where your troops are going to go. It walks you through some of the special rules, and it even tells you as you're starting your turn, you're skipping this or you're doing this. So the rulebook does such a good job of walking you through. You know, we're looking at this unit based on the photo. You're going to move X unit to this spot based on the movement factor, and it'll then walk you to the next part of the movement. And then you'll walk into some combat examples. Now, I'm going to go in and just show you some of my own made-up combat examples so we can dial in. But what this rulebook does is just walk you through a playthrough, and you will see how basic really your mechanics are. But again, the strategy of play is where you're going to have the tough decisions. So pictured are the headquarters markers. Now, the markers are very interesting. These are not the individual generals themselves. Now, first of all, you do have 3 headquarters that are French. The gray one is Prussian, and the white one is the Anglo-Allies. But what these markers represent is the commanders, the generals' command intent. And the key with the numbers are how far, how many hexes they can extend that command intent. So when new units come on the map, they have to move toward their commander and get into that command range in order to receive orders. Once they're in that zone, they want to stay in it in order to receive movement orders. Now, a new and interesting aspect is the flip side of the HQ marker. This is the battle side, and you can see their command radius that they extend out to is much reduced. On this battle side, as long as a unit is in range of the number shown, then that HQ, that command intent, can extend bonuses based on the stars on their counter. They can be used both in defensive and in attacks. The key is at the very first part of your turn is your placement of these HQ markers. So in this case, if I placed Wellington's marker, it would be on its normal phase, which means it has a radius of 10. But if it were placed at the start of the turn on its battle side, it only has a radius of 3, but now it can extend those bonus points. Another new aspect to this version of the system are the introduction of detachments. You can have detachments that either the headquarters unit can send out or its parent corps can send out. If the headquarters were to send out a detachment, it can send it out to the limit of its command radius. If a corps sends out a detachment, it's 3 hexes away. So when a detachment is sent out, whether it's from the headquarters associated with it or its parent corps, it cannot be in either an enemy or a friendly's zone of control or zone of influence. These detachments are not meant to be used as skirmishers that are out there just to slow down units coming into your front. They're actually meant to be detachments that are sent out to your flanks to cover a town or a bridge or a key road junction. All right, so the French are going to get to go first, and movement is always based on units being activated within the HQ range, in this case 8 for Napoleon. Now the French do have other headquarters, so you may be able to activate units depending on which headquarters you're referencing, but in this case we're just using Napoleon. So if this unit here wanted to move, he can move 4 because he's in an advanced formation. Now, he can't move across any other units. Detachments, no problem, but any other corps, he can't move through them. So I could simply go down the road with this unit, and as long as he stays on a road the entire way, he can double his movement to 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, no problem moving through a detachment. 5, but as soon as he gets to 6, he's actually entered a zone of influence for these Prussian units. So he has to stop right away when he enters that zone of influence, but he doesn't have to flip his counter. So he's in the advanced formation, he gets to stay there. So the other player would go, he would move either his Anglo-Allied forces or his Prussians, then it would come back to the French player, and let's say I want to move a cavalry unit. So again, he could move over roads, but if he goes down this road, he can't move through or into that unit. He can double and move 12 if he wanted to do some kind of looping around, all right, but he's got to stay within 8. But let's just keep it simple. He's going to move cross-country 1, 2, 3. He's entered a zone of influence. Again, zone of control is directly around. Zone of influence is the second circle around a counter. There is no flipping of the counter. He's a cavalry unit, so there is no advanced battle formation. The other side actually says exhausted, and he's not, but he has to stop immediately. Again, the other side would take their turn, and it would revert back to the French. So I could move this unit again, boom. Now he's actually in the zone of control of these Prussian units, and he must be flipped. So he's now locked into there as well and cannot move. Once you're in that zone of control, that unit can no longer move. It would revert back to the other player to take another movement turn. Now I'm going to speed things up because these moves would go back and forth with units maneuvering in whatever way they want until they cannot move. I would like to, just for purposes, I'm going to move this unit up to here, and I'm going to move this cavalry unit right into here. All right, again, it doesn't flip, but this other unit would go to its battle formation. I'm going to also move this unit into this location here. They're all in the zone of control of the Prussians. The Prussian units would be flipped as well. And what I want to show is the cool aspect of this movement phase is I would have a lot more units on the board, more than likely more than these here. But the first player that passes actually triggers a certain limited number of moves for their opponent. So you might want to pass early and to limit what could be an advantage for the other player. So example, the French player's passed. I cannot move any more of my units. I'm done. The other player gets to roll a dice. So I got a 3, and then I'll add in the modifier of any other units that I have, whether Anglo-Allies or Prussian, that are not in an enemy unit's zone of control or zone of influence. Let's just assume there were 2 other units that were movable. This would mean that I can make a total, or that my enemy, in this case, sorry, to keep it clear, can make a total of 5 more moves. 3 because of the die roll, and 2 because those were the number of units that were not in someone else's zone of control or zone of influence. Now you've got a handy chart, not only tracking your turns, but this little area right here matches up with some counters that act as a mnemonic for you to track how many moves you have left. So in this case, 5. Now there's another really neat aspect to this. It's the exact same in Gettysburg. If you have reinforcements that are off map, so for whatever reason the Prussians or the Anglo-Allies have not brought on some off-board units yet, those have to come on first. That's the only time you're actually told, hey, you got to bring these on the board. So in my 5 moves, not mine, in my opponent's 5 moves that they have left, if they have off-board units, they have to bring them onto the map. Now, as soon as they're on the map, they can go back to moving, whatever other units. Again, nothing that's locked down in a zone of control, but they can then move up to 5. Once they've completed that, that ends the movement phase. So in the attack phase, it's very similar again to how movement works. So you can have a unit get attacked multiple times, or it can attack multiple times in any sequence. The only factors being, is it in another unit's zone of control, or is it still on the map? In other words, it hasn't either been destroyed or blown, or I haven't passed. So the passing comes in again, which I'll explain in a little bit, very similar to movement. So the French player will start again deciding on who they're going to attack. And the attacks will alternate back and forth. Now a player has to either make an attack or pass. The French unit here in the center is going to attack this infantry unit that is in its zone of control and inside a town. Now, just to show the aspect of a headquarters that's in its battle side of that marker, I'm going to move that right up here just so you can see the bonus that's in play. So we will be doing a 1 6-sided die dice roll-off here in a second, but before we do that, we're going to figure up the modifiers. So this unit has a star, so that's +1. It's inside a town. That's defensible for the defender there. That's another +1. And if it's within the headquarters range of command, which is 3 for Blucher, and it's in its battle side of the marker, which it is, the benefit of any stars on that headquarters extends as well. So we have 1 for the star, 1 for the town, and 1 for the headquarters for a bonus of 3 that will apply to the rolling of this die, which we'll roll off in a second. Well, let's roll it now so I don't have to even think about it. There we go. So that would make that a 5. So again, we would roll these off at the same time, but just so I have it and because I will forget what the modifier is here in a second. Now we're going to do the same thing for the French, and the French have really brought it in this attack. So I'm going to walk through this here. This unit is again attacking this unit in the town. So the bonuses will be 2 stars, which are right on the counter. So there's going to be a +2 die modifier. You will look and see, are there any other units in the zone of control of the unit that's being attacked? So yes, this defender has 2 other units on his flank. You're going to get a +1, or the French player is going to get a +1 for that. So now we're at +4. So you're going to ask, what about the headquarters? The headquarters unit is not on its battle side, so that won't come into effect at all. Even if it was, the range of that is 3, so it wouldn't have been far enough to assist anyway. However, we do have a cavalry unit here. So the cavalry unit could also lend its support of its stars if it exhausted itself. All right, so it could flip and be exhausted. Let's go ahead and do that. So that would add 2, 4, and 6. The units would both have rolled, added in their modifiers. All right, 3, which would bring it to 9. The reason you want to bring in as many points as possible is you're looking at, and let me grab it real quick, a combat results table. Let me take a photo of this and then I'll set it off to the side here, picture in picture. So looking at that combat results table, you can see a 0's a stalemate, boom, nothing happened. They're just in each other's face trying to kill each other. If there was a +1 or 2 on either side, this roll could have gone against the French, probably not with all those modifiers in there, but anything's possible. But in this case, the Prussians would have to retreat if it was a +1 or 2. Retreating means they would have to retreat away from the attacking unit and go at least 3. They also can't move through any other friendly units, and this can allow them to actually get destroyed if you're able to trap them. But in this case, or not in this case, but it's possible they could have had to retreat 3 away from the attack. In this case, we have the +4, which is blown. Blown is, I think of it as just routed. They're routed off of the field. As long as you have enough turns left, they will come back in 2 turns. So 2 turns, again, a turn is half a day. So 24 hours later, the unit will come back in the step where you can return blown units. Now, again, if you're too close to the end of the battle, if it was 7 a.m. on June 18th, there aren't 24 hours left in the battle. They're just gone. They're eliminated. But if there is time, you just place them up on that turn round track so that you remember when they're coming back. The last part there for eliminated is if it had been 5 or more, then the unit's just flat out gone. Again, if there aren't enough turns left for the blown result to have an effect, it's the same as being eliminated. So this unit was blown, and it goes off and onto the turn-round track. All right, when a unit is eliminated or blown or retreats off of a space, sometimes there's the opportunity for a unit to advance into that vacated space. However, you cannot do it if you're in another enemy unit's zone of control, which he is. So he cannot take advantage of that advance. But turn or an attack would go to your opponent. Let's say the Prussians decide they're going to pass. They want to stay on the defensive. With the Prussians passing, it forces me, the French player, to do a die roll. I don't add any modifiers to it. That would be lucky. And that would be the number of attacks that I could still do. All right, so we're going to say that this exact same unit, he's going to attack again. Defending Prussian has a star for +1. He's in a town for +2. And he's within range of that battle side headquarters marker for Blucher for yet another +1. He gets to use his star. So he's going to have +3 to his die roll. So what does the French player bring? Well, he's got 2 stars. There is one other unit that is within the zone of control of the defending Prussian. So that's going to be a +1. He does not have the ability to use the cavalry again like he did in the last attack. So I have, or the French have, a +3 as well. We do the roll, and boy, the French are doing great. So we have 9 to 6. Again, we come in with the combat results table. We have a +3 difference using the modifiers. And again, we have a blown Prussian unit. He is off the map, possibly to return, depending on how many turns are left in the game. Now, that would be 5 attacks that I would have left. So the French could go around in different places of the board and continue their attacks until they're either pass or they've exhausted all 6 of those final attack options. All right, final thoughts on Waterloo Campaign 1815. So let's go piece by piece. The rule set, 7 pages of rules to read. My advice, read through those, even if you don't understand something here or there. Then go to that first scenario, which starts on the 16th, goes through June 18th. Follow the setup. One little negative here. These maps are so hard for me to read, whether it's the player aid card map or the one on the side here. I can't read them. But it's in text here, which is what I followed for setup. But the map is so gorgeous that the hex numbers are very, very subdued. Probably inserting picture-in-picture photo now. It keeps the map gorgeous, but it can make setup a little hard on these old eyes. If you have young eyes, it's probably easy and breezy. So the rule set, short, concise. The playbook portion, way to teach it, play it, you got it. Now you can go off and start to discover through your own play and maneuver the depth of the game. So the depth is not in the rules, the depth is going to be in the player and how you're going to strategize as you move around that map. It really opens it up. This idea of a lighter, breezier war game is what I get from this C3i series of games. Gettysburg, Waterloo, Rebel Fury that's coming. And it's very intriguing to me because Waterloo is not my genre of gaming. Napoleonics is something I'm just not interested in. But because of this system and the way Gettysburg had such a light hand as far as the rules went, I was very intrigued. And I thought, wow, do I want to get my hands on that? Normally, I'll just pass. Nothing against Napoleonics. It's just not my era. It's not era. It's definitely not my era. It's just not the thing that I'm interested in. And it was so exciting though when I knew it was coming out. I'm like, I got to try it. I love this system. Low counter density that makes it feel like it'll be limited, but then totally not. 90 minutes to 2 hours worth of playtime. That's where I like it, where with the game system that you're not playing over days and days. And the tweaks that Mark Herman's been adding from system to system, or theme to theme, or historical scenario to historical genre. The idea that the headquarters markers work a little bit different here, that zones of influence, same but a little bit different here. I could see maybe a suggestion would be, instead of the map on the one player aid card on the back, maybe something that says, as far as the C3i series goes, this is what's unique to Waterloo. And then just lay out what those changes are, so that if somebody's played Gettysburg or in the future Rebel Fury, they can just look at the back of the player aid and go, oh, okay, that's what's different in this one. Or as they're playing, they can look and go, yep, I got to remind myself. That would be my advice. If you do the deluxe version, either put it on the back or put it on the back of that card instead of the map. That's all I would say. All right. I think that's it. We've got a slick system here, right in my sweet spot of game length, easy to learn, easy to tweak, and tons of gameplay inside that map and those zones of control and zones of influence. See you guys. Chief, Bonding with Board Games. If anything, the rules are they feel light, kind of fluffy. Light and fluffy, Mark.